What if I told you that women in 1963 had more effective beauty routines than anything you'll find in a Sephora today? And what if I told you most of those routines cost less than $1? Here's what's stranger still. We knew they worked, and we stopped anyway. It's a Tuesday morning, 1963. A woman sits at a vanity that smells of cold cream and hairspray. The radio hums in the next room. She is already halfway through a routine she learned from her mother, who learned it from hers. She is not rushing. She doesn't need to. By the time she walks out that door, she will look more put together than most of us do after an hour on our phones reading reviews. And she did it with 6 things she already had in the house. Most people have never heard of half of them. A few were quietly abandoned for reasons that had nothing to do with whether they worked. And at least one of them, your dermatologist might find uncomfortable to admit. Stay with me.
What you're about to discover isn't a list of cute vintage tips. It's evidence. Evidence that somewhere between the 1960s and right now, an entire generation of accumulated, tested, working knowledge quietly disappeared. Not because it failed, but because it couldn't be packaged and sold at a markup. Some of these practices would be considered controversial today. A few might even sound dangerous by modern standards. And honestly, some of them were abandoned for good reason. We'll get to that. But others were simply replaced. Not improved, replaced. With products that cost 40 times more and work half as well. Most people today have no idea any of this existed. By the end of this, you will. Let's go back. After everything, after the cold cream and the pin curls and the vinegar rinse and the book on the head, she looked in the mirror. One look. Full and honest and clear. And then she turned away. She did not check herself in shop windows. She did not photograph her face from 17 different angles. She did not compare what she saw to someone else's face before she'd even finished her coffee. She had prepared. She was ready. And that, by a discipline so quiet it barely had a name, was enough. There is a kind of confidence encoded in that single act that took me a long time to understand. It's not vanity. It's not denial. It's the understanding that the ritual is complete. That looking again and again doesn't improve you. It just erodes the certainty that the ritual was built to give you. She looked once, and then she went out and inhabited her day like it belonged to her. Because it did.
Here's the one that doesn't get mentioned in nostalgic beauty content. Not everything about 1960s beauty culture was wisdom. Some of the standards women were expected to meet were not about health or self-care. They were about compliance, about making themselves acceptable to systems, workplaces, marriages, social structures that did not yet see them fully as autonomous people. The expectation to always be composed, always polished, never too much and never not enough. For some women, the rituals in this video were a form of genuine self-care, private, grounding, passed down with love. For others, the same rituals were performed under a quiet anxiety. Be presentable or face consequences. Understanding what we've inherited means holding both of those truths at once. The practices were often brilliant. The context they existed in was often unfair. We should take the knowledge and leave the pressure behind. Every week, Saturday or Sunday without fail, she warmed oil in her palms. Castor oil, coconut oil, olive if that's what was in the pantry. She worked it into her scalp with her fingertips in slow circles for 10 to 15 minutes, stimulating circulation, feeding the follicle, giving the scalp the thing it was designed to receive. Then she combed it to the ends, wrapped her hair in a warm towel, and left it for an hour. When she washed it out, her hair was different, softer at the ends, fuller at the root, the scalp calm and slightly tingling. The modern hair care industry now sells scalp serums, follicle activators, bond-building treatments, each one promising what she received weekly from one ingredient. The practice didn't disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because it couldn't be sold in a complicated enough form to justify the margin.
Mixed in a small bottle on her vanity. 1 part vegetable glycerin, 3 parts rose water.
The rose water smelled like a garden in late afternoon. The glycerin formed a gentle barrier that held moisture against the skin without clogging or heaviness. This combination is centuries old, used across South Asia, the Middle East, and parts of Europe long before the 1960s codified it into a vanity staple. It remains one of the most effective, gentle hydrating preparations a person can make at home. The combined cost? Under $3. The Advanced Hydration Serum, using glycerin as its hero ingredient, now on the shelf at a major retailer? $58. The formula isn't secret. It never was. She slept on silk. Not because she was wealthy, because her mother told her that cotton created friction. Microscopic, nightly, relentless, that pulled at the face and roughened the hair over years. Silk let everything glide. She woke with fewer creases pressed into her skin. Her pin curls stayed intact. Her face felt rested rather than worked. Silk pillowcases are currently sold as luxury wellness items for $60 to $100. Beauty journalists call it a game-changing discovery. Dermatologists confirm the anti-friction benefit in interviews as if it's new information. It's 1961 information. She wasn't ahead of her time. We just fell behind. She didn't just apply lipstick, she placed it. Line the lip, press the first layer, blot with tissue, reapply, blot once more. 4 minutes, 2 layers, 1 tissue, done. The result lasted, didn't feather, didn't transfer, looked intentional. Because it was. There are beauty tutorials online today running 12 to 15 minutes, involving 7 separate products, promising all-day lipstick. The technique is complex, the results are inconsistent. She would have watched one, I think, politely, and then gone back to her 4-minute method. Some problems don't need 7 products. They need 4 minutes and a little patience. On Sunday evenings, she made a paste. Ground oatmeal, warm water, sometimes a spoonful of honey. 20 minutes on the face, cool water rinse, done. Her skin afterward was calm, smooth, slightly luminous in the way skin looks when it's been soothed rather than stimulated. In 2003, the FDA formally recognized colloidal oatmeal as a skin protectant, the only non-prescription ingredient approved for conditions including eczema and rosacea. It is now the active compound in multiple clinical skincare lines retailing for $40 to $80 a tube. She made it in her kitchen. It cost almost nothing. It worked. The science eventually caught up to the kitchen table. It usually does. She did not spray perfume casually. It was not a morning reflex. It was not applied in the car. It was not reapplied throughout the day. Perfume was reserved for occasions that warranted it, applied in specific places, in a specific quantity, with a deliberateness that made the wearing of it feel like a small ceremony. The rule was philosophical. If scent is always present, it loses its power. The moment someone catches your perfume in passing, that precise second of recognition and pleasure was meant to be a moment, not a background condition. The French perfumers who built their entire industry on that philosophy understood it completely. Today, we have body sprays applied 7 times before 9 a.m. We wonder why nothing smells quite special anymore. Scarcity was the point. We forgot. Before coffee. Before checking anything. Before the day had any demands on her yet. A glass of water. She kept it on the nightstand sometimes. Or she walked to the kitchen in her robe and drank it slowly at the window, watching whatever weather was outside. This wasn't a wellness routine. It wasn't a protocol. It was something her mother told her worked, and so she did it. The way you do something when you trust the person who taught you. The skin looked better. The headaches came less often. The digestion ran smoother. We've since commodified this completely. $60 water bottles, hydration tracking apps, morning routine influencers who have built entire platforms around the concept of drinking water before coffee. The instruction hasn't changed. We just stopped trusting the person who first gave it to us. In the 1960s, a woman's hands were attended to. Rubber gloves for dishes, cotton gloves for gardening, nightly moisturizer applied before bed, cuticles pushed back with an orange stick, gently, carefully in one direction. Nails filed in one direction only, never sawed back and forth. She knew that nails filed incorrectly weakened at the edges. She knew because someone told her, and that person knew because it had been observed over time without a single controlled study. Today, gel manicures damage the nail bed. Acrylics require a drill to remove. The average gel appointment costs $60 to $80 and lasts 9 days. Her routine cost nothing, took 15 minutes before bed, and her nails at 60 looked like she'd cared about them because she had. One bottle, clear liquid, a slightly herbal, almost medicinal smell. She saturated a cotton ball with witch hazel and swept it across her face after cleansing. Her skin tightened subtly. The pores appeared smaller. The surface was smooth and calm. Witch hazel is a plant-derived astringent. It has been used on skin for centuries. It costs almost nothing. Walk into any pharmacy today and the toner aisle will offer you 40 variations of this same effect. Different bottles, different brand stories, different price points. Few of them are more effective than the original. Witch hazel has quietly reappeared in the ingredient lists of many high-end skincare lines. They don't always announce it prominently, but it's there. Because some things that disappear don't disappear because they stopped working. We're halfway through, and what's coming next includes the one practice most people find genuinely unbelievable. Don't go anywhere. She walked with a book on her head. Not metaphorically, literally. A hardcover book balanced on the crown of her skull while she crossed the room, descended stairs, and sometimes carried on a conversation. This wasn't a finishing school eccentricity. It was a daily practice in many households because posture was considered inseparable from appearance. The way a woman moved through a room communicated everything: her confidence, her health, her seriousness as a person. And here is the uncomfortable modern parallel. We now spend hundreds of dollars on posture-correcting devices, ergonomic assessments, chiropractic appointments, correcting a problem that was never permitted to develop because someone, once upon a time, handed a young woman the complete works of Shakespeare and said, walk. She didn't book a chemical peel for dark spots. She went to the kitchen, cut a lemon in half, squeezed the juice, applied it with a cotton ball, and waited 20 minutes. Now, to be fair, this is one of the practices with legitimate caution attached to it. Lemon juice increases photosensitivity. Used without sun protection afterward, it can worsen pigmentation rather than improve it. They didn't always know that then. That's a real limitation. But here's the truth underneath it. Vitamin C is a clinically proven skin brightener. It reduces melanin production. It fades hyperpigmentation over time. The vitamin C serum industry is worth billions. She was accessing the same active compound from something growing in her fruit bowl. Imperfectly, yes, but directionally correct. The knowledge wasn't wrong. The application just needed refining. Foundation stopped at the jaw. This was not a suggestion. It was a rule, and breaking it was considered careless, in the way that showing up unprepared was considered careless. The goal of 1960s makeup was not transformation. It was enhancement. You were meant to look like yourself, only rested, only ready. The foundation covered what needed covering, nothing more. She blended it in natural light, always natural light, because bathroom lighting is a specific kind of lie, and she knew better. The skill required was significant, more significant in many ways than the layered contouring techniques that dominate beauty culture today, because the margin for error was so much smaller. When contouring is imprecise, it reads as makeup. When a 1960s base was imprecise, it read as the face. There was nowhere to hide. That discipline produced a standard of finish that is genuinely rare today. One small jar, a name everyone knows, an ingredient in almost every luxury cream on the market. Petroleum jelly. She used it on her lips before bed, on her eyelids for a subtle evening sheen, on her heels and elbows, on the edges of her hairline to smooth flyaways. And here's the one that will genuinely surprise you: the thinnest possible layer over the face after moisturizer, a technique now called slugging in modern skincare communities, currently viral on social media, recommended by dermatologists, was something she did in 1963. She didn't have a name for it. She just knew it worked. The jar cost 19 cents and lasted 12 months. The overnight skin barrier repair cream doing the same job? $45. New formula, same idea. This one is genuinely controversial, and I want to be fair about it. In the 1960s, the foundation garment, the structured slip, the fitted girdle, was worn daily by most women. It was chosen carefully, often fitted by a trained seamstress in a department store. The argument against it is legitimate. These garments were sometimes associated with social pressure, with the idea that a woman's natural body needed to be corrected before she could be acceptable. That conversation needed to happen, and it did. But something else got lost in it. The idea of dressing with intention. The philosophy that what you build beneath shapes what you project above. That the way you carry your body is a decision, not an accident. We threw out the garment, and in some ways, we threw out the discipline too. Here's where it gets interesting. For generations, the nightly ritual of 100 brushstrokes was considered non-negotiable. Natural boar bristle brush, starting at the scalp, long, slow strokes to the ends. The effect? The scalp's own natural oils, produced for free, requiring no manufacturing facility, no supply chain, no markup, were distributed down the entire hair shaft. The result was hair that shone without serum, hair that resisted breakage without bond repair, hair that behaved. Then, sometime in the 1970s and 80s, the advice shifted. Overbrushing damages hair, the new guidance said. And it can, if you use the wrong brush on wet hair with poor technique. But the wholesale abandonment of the practice, that happened right around the time the hair product industry began its major expansion. Curious timing.
After washing her hair, she didn't reach for conditioner. She diluted white vinegar in cool water and poured it slowly over her hair as a final rinse. You might be thinking, vinegar? Really? Yes, and here's why it matters. Shampoo is alkaline. It disrupts the hair's natural pH balance, leaving the cuticle rough, the scalp reactive, the hair prone to frizz and breakage. A mild acid rinse, like diluted vinegar, closes the cuticle, restores the pH, and leaves the hair smooth and genuinely clean. Every pH balancing product in the professional hair care aisle is solving this exact problem. The bottles are beautiful. The claims are clinical. The markup is extraordinary. Her solution cost 40 cents and worked the same way.
This one surprises people every time. Every night, not occasionally, every night, she wound her damp hair into small, flat curls against her scalp, secured each one with a metal clip, wrapped her head in a silk scarf, and went to sleep. No heat, no electrical tools, no damage. In the morning, the pins came out and the hair fell in waves that held all day. Defined, bouncy, with no split ends burned away by a tool running at 400 degrees. Now, consider this. The global hair care market is currently worth over $90 billion. A significant portion of that money is being spent treating damage caused by the very tools we use to style our hair. She had zero heat damage because she used zero heat. We abandoned this not because it didn't work, but because it required something we decided we no longer had the night before.
Before we get to the surprising ones, let's start with the one the beauty industry desperately hopes you've forgotten. Cold cream. Every single night, without exception, women in the 1960s massaged it into their skin, face, throat, the delicate skin beneath the eyes, and removed it slowly with a warmed cloth. It smelled of roses and mineral oil. It cost less than $1 for a jar that lasted months. Here's what the beauty industry doesn't advertise. The active principles in most modern luxury overnight creams, the ones selling for $60, $70, $90, are functionally identical to what was in that jar. Emollient barrier, moisture lock, skin restoration while you sleep. She knew this in 1963. Not from a clinical trial, from watching her mother's skin age gracefully, decade after decade. The ritual worked.
So they rebranded it, tripled the price, and called it Innovation. Somewhere between 1963 and now, we were sold a story. The story went like this. You were always one product away from being enough. And the extraordinary thing about that story is how completely it replaced the older one, the one passed down at vanity tables and kitchen sinks, through the quiet authority of women who had figured things out the slow way and were trying to give you the shortcut. Some of what they knew was brilliant. Some of it was incomplete. A little of it we've rightly left behind. But the spirit of it, the idea that you could know your own face, tend to it with care, and then get on with your life without constant doubt, that got buried under an avalanche of content designed to make you feel like you hadn't done quite enough yet. So let me ask you this, and I want you to sit with it. Did we improve, or did we just forget? Because there's a difference between progress and distraction, and I'm not sure we've always known which one we were choosing. Maybe some of the answers were always in the jar with the rose on the lid. Maybe we just forgot who gave it to us. If something in this felt familiar, like something half-remembered, something your grandmother might have said, there's another video I think you'll want to watch. It's about the household habits people kept before everything became convenient. And what happened to us when it did? It's right there when you're ready.